Dear listeners, I apologize for the delay in this week's episode. I know this is Thursday, and it usually comes out on Thursday. It's really not delayed at all, but I thought I should apologize anyway.
Chris, do not deviate from the schedule.
As you can imagine, I've been quite busy as of late, what with, the Zindi and committing genocides and things like that. So I really just hadn't gotten along to writing this letter until now, because now I'm all alone on the ship. There's nobody else here.
Nobody
It's
here
just
but us
me.
hallucinations.
Oh my God! You're here? Shit! Well, I'm Jake. Who are you?
I'm Chris, and I'm wondering why you're nude.
I'm Ames, and I'm just here to feed the bat.
I'm Caitlin, and I was just running some analyses in the other room. Why are you acting like I wasn't here the whole time?
Oh my God! Now, all these ghosts, everyone's supposed to be in bed. You're all gonna die immediately.
Pants on.
Fuck! Yeah, well, if you haven't guessed already, you are listening to A Star to Steer Her By, a Star Trek podcast. And what episode is it, you ask? Oh, about 350.
Woo!
Ooh, it's a good number.
Yeah, and I actually don't know the origin of that meme, the 350 meme, so I don't know. If it turns out it's like shitty, if it's like some right-wing dog whistle, just edit it out and I'll replace it with, hey, it's episode 350.
Woo!
Woo!
There. All right, there it is. So anywho, this week we will be talking about 2 episodes of Star Trek The Enterprise, Doctor's Orders, sexy Doctor's Orders,
Oh.
naked Phlox. Look
So
at his
much.
feet. And Hatchery. That's Hatchery, where we hatch things.
Schemes.
We hatch schemes.
You know,
It's
to
where
commit genocide.
The Romulans live. All right, so anywho, first off, in Doctor's Orders, we are doing another epistolary framing device where Dr. Phlox is corresponding with his friend Dr. Lucas, who's the human doctor, if you remember from Dear Doctor. He is the human that's in the Denobulan, medical exchange, so he's sort of like Phlox's counterpart there. Doesn't matter. It's just a device so that, the first 3/4 of the episode aren't complete silence or just Phlox talking to himself.
Or Porthos.
Yeah, that's true. Or Porthos.
Porthos gets some
basically,
lines.
What's going on is the entire crew has been put to sleep. I mean, not in the way that Phlox wants to, but he's like actually put them on, sedated them, because the ship has to pass through this region of space that is being reconfigured by the spheres, and it's very toxic to humans, but dogs and Denobulans, and maybe Vulcans, we'll see, are not susceptible to the particular dangers of this region of space. So everybody on the ship goes to bed except for Phlox and Porthos and maybe T'Pol.
Oh boy.
So it's really just Phlox hanging around the ship, keeping an eye on
Naked
things, making
the whole time.
Yeah,
He's hanging dong around the ship.
A lot of hanging dong. He's, feeding the dog. He's checking on the people. He's making sure the ship is working all right. He's watching movies. It's really quite boring. And then he starts hearing some noises on the hull. Like, what? What the fuck is that? So he goes to check it out, and he can't figure it out. And then Paul comes in, and he's like, oh, it was just you, Paul, because he'd conveniently forgotten that T'Pol is also awake on the ship until this very moment. So then it's pretty much that for the rest of the episode. It's him and T'Pol, and he's getting progressively more paranoid about noises he hears and hallucinations he is having. Like, he sees dark figures running around and
Zombie Hoshi.
Hoshi, some great makeup and acting from Hoshi. It turns out the problem is just that Phlox is actually somewhat susceptible to this radiation or whatever, and it's doing damage to his brain, and he's just going progressively crazier And then finally, they're only supposed to be in this region of space for 4 days. And Trip was like, don't turn on the warp drive, whatever you do. I don't know how it's going to work. So Phlox and T'Pol go to the bridge when they think they're going to be out, and they turn on the screen. They could have just looked out the window anywhere, but they turn on the screen, and what? We're still in this weird fucking space. God fucking shit. And then he checks it out, and it's like, oh my God, we're nowhere near the end of this thing. It's much longer than I thought.
10 more weeks, bad luck.
We're going to be stuck here for 10 fucking weeks. And he's like, shit, fuck it. We got to do the warp drive. We can't, I can't deal with this for 10 more weeks. I'll probably just die. And T'Pol's also having mental problems. So everyone is
Porthos
in trouble.
is in charge.
And Porthos can't fly the ship by himself because he doesn't have the thumbs. So Phlox and T'Pol go to engineering and read the instruction manual for the warp drive, which I'm only imagining it's like how to set up your television type instructions.
Trip made them a flip book.
Yeah, or IKEA instructions, just picture little illustrations of pressing different buttons.
Use the Allen key.
They do manage to get the warp drive started, and it's not going great, but, it's sparks are flying, things are exploding, but somehow they manage to get the warp drive running without blowing up the ship, and they go to warp, and they get out of the bad area. And then Phlox is going around, he's waking everybody back up, he wakes Archer up, and, everyone's like, thanks, Doc. And then he's talking to T'Pol, and he's like, listen, T'Pol, you've been up all fucking week with me, so why don't I, I'll walk you back to your quarters and see that you get to sleep, and maybe we can do some of that Vulcan touching or something. So they go into T'Pol's quarters, and he looks at her bed, and what? There's T'Pol asleep on the bed with one of the little doohickeys on her face.
We got Shyamalan'd.
Then he looks back at the T'Pol that's awake, and she's gone. Oh my God. It was just another hallucination. T'Pol was in bed the whole time, and Phlox is a nutcase. The end.
Neat.
Jake, that was very, very, concise, but it could have been more concise. You could have just said, okay, so take the script for 1, do a find and replace for 7 of 9 with Phlox. Yeah.
Yeah, and take out the interesting things.
Well, that too, yeah.
From 1, like the other ship captain and stuff like that.
Well, they turned that into fake T'Pol. Yeah,
but fake T'Pol is boring.
Oh, the whole episode
no. I mean,
so
it's basically
tedious.
Beat for beat. Even the whole thing with Hoshi very much mirrored
the Tom getting out and crawling around all the time.
Of course, he actually did that
once, not as many times as she hallucinated him doing it.
Fair. Yeah. Wow. What a terrible episode.
It wouldn't be terrible on its own, but I think it's. Because 1 exists.
Yeah, you got to put this on the Enterprise curve in which you forget that all other television exists and just view this in isolation.
Even on that curve, so little happens until the last 7 minutes. Phlox is not someone I care about. So
other fans do
for some reason,
right?
But when it's just him for a while, I mostly was like, oh boy, it's Porthos. Then T'Pol shows up, but still nothing really happens. And when something does happen, it's, again, retreading old ground, albeit not Star Trek, but there's some thing on the saucer.
Yeah. I wonder if that was a deliberate nod to that.
Oh, I'm sure it was. And I'm sure also it was very let's do Sixth Sense, but for Star Trek.
Yeah. The best part of this episode, I was actually watching it on my laptop, so I had headphones on. And the best part was just listening to Porthos' little feet on the deck. Whoever did the Foley did a very good job with his cute little tap, 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 tap.
It was breezy.
I'll give them this for this episode that, okay, again, in a vacuum, if 1 didn't exist, I think that this is on Star Trek, on the spectrum of Star Trek suspense,
the Star Trek
/
spectrum
horror episodes. This is better in just that it was actually suspenseful when it was trying to be. When it wasn't being boring, it was the tension was good. I thought.
I was just bored. Like, by the time they started trying to make it tense, I was just too, like, doldrummed out to care.
See, I think like they had like a nice seamless transition into the horror when suddenly there's Xindi on the ship, and it's like, oh, this is the kind of turn of the episode where we kind of see like there is like potential threat, and also there's a potential threat specifically to Phlox's brain, because if he doesn't do it right, he will get everyone killed. I don't know. My very first note was finally an all Porthos show, and sadly I was wrong.
See, I was just like, oh man. They could have just trained Porthos, and Porthos just put him in a little tiny uniform. Just put little special dog buttons on all the controls.
I'm curious how this was for people who did, like, when people figured out the twist that T'Pol isn't actually there. Because I don't remember, this isn't the first time I watched this episode. I watched this when we did our bottle episodes discussion for the blog. Check out the blog, of course. And remember, my only reaction being, wow, so I just watched one again, huh?
Yep. That's the thing, when I was watching it and she showed up, I was like, whoa, wait, she was there the whole time and he was still hanging dong? And then I was like, wait a minute. Is she a hallucination too? I can't remember. Because I would have watched this, ages ago. But I was pretty sure, I was like, I think she's also a specter.
Yeah, and they weren't being very subtle with it.
Yeah, there's tons of hints.
Yeah, like the dinner where she doesn't touch her food, which is not atypical of Star Trek, but they usually at least pick up the knife.
They throw it against the wall.
Yes.
She had no celery for him to steal off of her plate.
Yep, so she clearly didn't exist. Yeah, just the fact that, they had her specifically not interact with any of the things or the dog or the stuff. Like, she comes back in when Phlox tells her to go do something, and she says, I don't know how to do that. You have to do it. It's like, T'Pol would know these things. Even stressed out T'Pol. And it's like, for a little while, I was like, Jolene, what are you trying to do with T'Pol? It's like, oh, because you're not T'Pol, you're Phlox. You're just Phlox. So we got some very strange acting out of her. Probably because, as it's unraveling that it's not her. It's not that she's acting like she's succumbing to the radiation or whatever the fuck the thing or the thing of the week was. It's that she's becoming more and more Phlox.
Yeah.
And Phlox is going nuts.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give him credit for, it being kind of believable at first, just because it's like, oh, yes, of course Vulcans are also immune. Mm-hmm. They're magic.
You just gotta close that second eyelid and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Want to check out that Danny Kaye movie, apparently called The Court Jester.
Yeah, I don't. It looks stupid.
I've definitely heard about that, the pellet with the poisons and the vessel with the pestle before, so I was kind of amused and interested. I might give it a shot.
It's just occurred to me I've never seen a Danny Kaye film, and he's pretty famous, and he helped found that children's hospital.
I don't know who Danny Kaye is, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, big mid-century comedic actor. Oh, they mentioned The Exorcist, which is the most contemporary film they've brought up on this show.
Well, yeah, because they didn't have to
show
it.
Right.
So.
But we said before how, they could at least mention films they can't show, and they finally did. Have.
I'm glad they listened to us.
Yeah, they could have just mentioned The Sixth Sense.
Although I think, honestly, given the nature of, Phlox's flip-out, it would have made more sense to use something like The Shining. Just because that's about a guy in isolation going crazy.
Yeah, that's a good point. I thought, I was also thinking about, The Shining. At one point I messaged Chris while I was watching it. It was like, all work and no play makes Phlox even more insufferable somehow.
Yeah, I read that, Billingsley obviously had a major hand in this episode. He's in, every single scene. And he tells the writers at some point, ages ago, you know what, writers? I assume that since Phlox has 3 wives, Phlox must have 3 penises. And shouldn't there be a great gag where, Phlox is naked for some reason and someone walks in, sees what the fuck he has, and faints? And the writers said, okay, we'll do something with you nude and you can do this. Here you go. Enjoy.
Why would three dicks thing doesn't make sense.
John Billingsley seems like a weird guy.
No! What? Moving on.
I also question how he can get those feet with those horrible toenails into shoes.
I don't know. Stop showing them. They're vile. It looks like he's taped cockroaches to his toes.
Maybe he has.
He and the dog eat leeches for reasons. I feel like
that reminds me of something I meant to bring up earlier. Thank you.
Cool.
The fucking audacity of Phineas fucking Phlox, or whatever his full name is, to put a Phlox's do not eat sticker on his leeches. Like, you celery-stealing prick. How dare you say people shouldn't touch your food? Sorry, you were saying?
I don't know. It's
they
gone.
eat leeches for some reason.
They did.
Also, I have now decided he is Phineas fucking Phlox.
Please no. I like the name Phineas. Don't ruin it for me.
Have we ever heard his first name?
I think his name is just Phlox.
Yeah, I don't think the Denobulans have.
Although his wife is Feasel Phlox.
Maybe the women do. I don't know.
It is funny how often aliens are just mononyms in Star Trek.
Yeah, maybe.
Or like
maybe
Spock.
We just never hear.
Like Spock, you couldn't pronounce it.
Mm.
Yeah, if you just search for Phlox on Google, you get pictures of flowers.
Oh,
that's right. It's
I
a
like
flower
that.
name.
That's much better than Phlox.
Yeah, if he has a full name, it's not even on Memory Alpha.
All right, so let's talk about whatever this anomaly thing they have to fly through is, because otherwise it's a 2-week detour, which sounds like fucking nothing, considering how long it takes to get places.
Detour.
It's like, we could warp through it in 4 hours, and Trip's like, no warp, don't do the warp thing. Okay, we can fly through at impulse in, what was it, 4 days? I'm like, that math doesn't seem like it works out. At warp 4 to be 4 hours, otherwise at fucking impulse
Yeah, I'm sure
should be fucking a year.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it ever established how fast impulse actually is? I feel like it's very inconsistent.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But yeah, warp 4 definitely seems like it should be, a lot faster than impulse.
Yeah, like impulse, I feel. I mean, at the very least, we know it's sublight, but how close does it get to light before it can't actually get any faster? Like, is it 0.999 repeating light speed, or is it like half light speed, or whatever?
It's about 65 miles an hour.
You gotta get to 88, that's the trick.
But yeah, it seems like they should have been in there for a lot longer. And also, like, that whole trip, can't use the warp drive. I mean, it just turned out to be needless, we need this for the plot to proceed, because ultimately using the warp drive was fine.
Well, there was a minor hiccup for 2 seconds.
Well, that was just because Phlox didn't know what the fuck he was doing.
Which I think was probably the concern all along, no?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, he got like a crash course on how to pilot the ship from Mayweather, and he says like, I now have a newfound respect for Mayweather, as we're watching Mayweather do a thing, and because he's doing his narration over it, Mayweather still gets no lines.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a new appreciation for what Mayweather does. Shows up, has his picture taken for a few seconds, and gets to do nothing.
I at least hope that actor was getting paid the same amount as the other main cast.
No, like if he was just getting like principal extra work or something. Like...
Right? Well, like, considering that there are people that are on this show that have had far more to do than Mayweather and are not
like Porthos.
Main cast. Oh, I was gonna say Hayes, right? Like Hayes isn't a main in the main cast.
But he still gets more lines.
He gets a lot more lines and a lot more shit to do. He gets a
Shran
whole fucking rivalry with
Reed.
Dickhead.
Dickhead.
Awesome segue.
Stinky.
With Stinky, and yet
Stinky Dickhead.
The only thing that Mayweather gets is those amazingly funny pranks.
They did have me in stitches last week.
And his fucking hot biceps,
This is actually that's what this whole episode needed to be.
A Mayweather prank?
Phlox wasn't actually being affected by anything. He just slipped some LSD into Phlox's leeches.
Woof.
Oh, you tell me I can't eat the leeches, huh? Well, get a load of this.
Why does everyone want to eat leeches?
Well,
maybe they're
Phlox,
delicious. I don't know.
Dogs will eat literally their own shit, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't take Porthos' word for it. And Phlox
We'll also eat
anything
shit.
Will eat anything that isn't on his own plate. So leeches count.
So according to the Star Trek Voyager technical manual, so this is Voyager, full impulse on that ship anyway is 1/4 the speed of light. Now, whether or not that is full impulse everywhere or just specifically the Intrepid class, bit vague.
Well, probably not, at least not on Enterprise, 'cause it's
Yeah,
like the
or-
first one, you know?
Yeah, or it could be different between like eras. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
the TNG DS9 Voyager impulse would be one thing, but they've scaled them however way since this period.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, and they've also like retconned it so that the warp scale differs.
yeah.
Because like in TOS they routinely went faster than warp 10, but now it's turns you into a lizard.
Without even
I mean,
using a
it means-
traveler.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd imagine even in universe, like, they presumably improved impulse engines over the years, and of course, she's also a much, much smaller ship, so who knows?
The Voyager?
No, Enterprise.
Ah.
I mean, compared to Voyager. And Voyager's smaller than, say, the Galaxy class.
And that's smaller than the Death Star.
Mm.
All right, anyway.
I love-
What else on this shit show?
Oh, I love how Phlox ends his correspondence with Lucas after he's figured out, oh, everything I've told you has been me hallucinating all over the place. And I was considering cutting it, but you know what? You'd find my delusional nature entertaining and not worrisome. Sure. Sure, Phlox.
I was going to delete it, but I can live with it.
Ah, there you go.
I figure it's like, well, it took me a fucking year to write this letter. God damn if I'm going to do it again.
Yeah, seriously. Ugh.
No, just do
Fuck
like a search and replace for every time you say T'Pol, just say illusory T'Pol.
I also thought it was pretty wild that he was like, sorry to hear about the attacks on Earth, but I bet you're glad to be back, even under such shitty circumstances, eh?
Seriously.
Yikes.
Jesus Christ.
Well, Trip, I know you were going to Florida for your sister's funeral, but it must be great to be back home, eh?
Yeah, you got a big
Like,
trip to the beach
sir.
planned?
Read the fucking room, Phlox. What the fuck, man?
Oh, here's a good note. So Breezy and Windy, the puppies, they were called in for 5 out of 7 filming days for this,
Yeah.
Oh,
which is more than
hardworking
anyone
dogs.
except for Billingsley and Blaylock.
Mayweather was only called for 1.
and he could leave early.
Yeah. He grabbed a ham sandwich and skipped out the door.
Oh. And Walter Koenig was at the back with brass knuckles being like, give me my part of the sandwich, Mayweather. All sandwiches belong to Chekhov. You have to pay the sandwich tax.
Speaking of TOS, this is also in Enterprise the only I'm a Dr. Nada that we get,
Ah.
Yes,
which is
I'm a physician, not
some
an engineer.
restraint.
Yeah,
Considering
true.
in Voyager, I think there's like double the number that we had in TOS.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they
In one
lampshade
episode.
that by saying that the EMH
Is a ham.
Well, no, is that he's programmed with Dr. McCoy's something.
His
Beautiful
fucking
eyes.
audacity.
Audacity, I like that.
That
You know what it is?
Also-
Like Zimmerman. Well, here's what happened. Like Zimmerman was like, okay, I need to get all these like storied Starfleet doctors in here, and like, oh wow, holy shit, fucking McCoy is still alive. I'm just gonna go interview him.
Aw, I want to
So
see
he
that
goes-
episode.
He goes to interview McCoy, and like at that point, like old crotchety McCoy, everything Zimmerman asks him, his response is, "I'm a fucking doctor, not a fucking hologram.
Yes,
I'm a doctor, not a lab rat."
write it. It's perfect.
younger. It's younger Zimmerman, but it's on a TV budget, so he doesn't really look that much younger. He's just wearing a terrible piece.
Do we think Phlox, like, suddenly singing songs was a nod to the EMH? Like, did we nod at all the doctors in this episode? And if so, what was Julian's nod?
He didn't fuck a ghost.
The
so-
nakedness. The coming on
And
to his
obviously,
patients, the leeches.
The hallucinating, coming onto his patients is good. The hallucinating is obviously for Blazing Bev, as we know.
There we go.
But yeah, it did sort of feel like, okay, he's singing like the doctor. He's a doctor, not a bricklayer. But I wonder if there was sorry, I'm being distracted by the cat. I can't think if there was really anything for the others.
Was he bitching about turning 30?
Actually, I do have. He is like Julian. He's fucking horny as shit all the time. I miss the nightclubs, making new relationships. If people are into it, if people are vibing. He's some new pussy.
He's alone on the ship, like Bev was in Remember Me.
Hey, there it is. And nobody likes him, just like Pulaski. There we go. We've done it.
Aw, we like Pulaski, though.
I know. I love Pulaski. But
this episode was trash, like Distant Voices.
There we go. There we go.
See, I didn't even hate this one. I just, like, the whole time I'm like, that's just like this part of one. That's like this part of one. It's like, wow, this. If I hadn't seen one, I really wonder what my impression would have been.
That's how I kind of feel too, because it didn't seem terrible. It just seemed fairly boring up until they got to the horror bits, and then I couldn't stop thinking the whole time watching this about one, which is a superior episode, and it's not even like it's poetry, it rhymes. It's like it's like
a Xerox copy.
The song that never ends. You know,
it's the Aeneid. You know, it's like, all right, we want our own Odyssey and Iliad. Just write both at once, and not as good.
Yeah, I also thought there was like one shot in we're afraid of doing something to the warp engine, looking straight down at the two of them looking up. And it went on for so long, and it was the two of them just looking very goofily at something whilst freaking out, and you don't know why. And I don't know. This was directed by Roxanne, so like I could see
Roxanne! You don't have to put on the red light.
Woof.
Roxanne!
Neat. So it's like I see she was doing things to like make this, look and appeal and look like visually appealing, but there were some moments that it's like, oh boy, that one just looks it looks tropey, but I don't really know what it's tropey of.
Yeah, you know what they should have done, since they were just throwing originality out the window anyway, was once we knew he was out of his mind, more fisheye lens.
Yay!
Yeah, we needed some fisheye lens. That would have given it away, though. You know, we would have.
Well, it's like you wait until even he's realized he's lost it. You know, so it's just like, all right, we've already rumbled the game. Time for that fisheye crazy.
Wait, and would that then be a nod to the first Doctor on the original show? No, because that wasn't a pilot Doctor episode, was it? Never mind. I'm just still working with my theory. I think we've all moved on except me.
Yeah, we'll be in our character spotlight discussion. You'll say, and wait a minute, it's like this too.
It's like a balloon and something bad happens.
It's like Dr. Zoidberg too. Work him in somehow.
Why not Zoidberg?
Oh, I love Zoidberg, unlike Phlox.
I mean, I think I love Zoidberg ironically, I don't know if I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about my feelings.
I love Zoidberg jokes. Zoidberg jokes are funny.
Zoidberg jokes are great. I think I'll have a scuttle.
My last breath, I curse Zoidberg.
With my last breath, I curse Hatchery, because this is one of the episodes I fucking deplore.
Cool segue, Ames.
I did it. I've moved on from being like, oh, this is the same show, versus, oh god, I hate this fucking show.
Anyway, well, let me tell you about Hatchery.
Do it.
So yeah, in our next episode, Hatchery, we're tooting around.
Toot toot.
We're trying to find that Azati Prime, and on our way, we stumble upon a crashed Xindi ship on some planet.
Oh, and it's the Insectoid ship, and they're cool looking. They're in one of our blogs.
Well, we got to go check this out. So they send a away party down, and Archer teams up with Hayes, and that pisses off Reed to no end.
Thought they got over that.
It gives a long look as he's walking away, like, oh, Daddy's playing with the new stepson. How about a catch?
Oh, poor Reed.
But anyway, Yeah, so turns out that, this insectoid ship crashed and everybody's dead except they, on board, they have this sealed chamber. And in the chamber, there are a bunch of eggs, insect eggs.
Gross.
So rather than grabbing the raid like I would have done,
Phlox would have eaten them.
Archer's like, oh, well, we should, see if we can help him out. And then he's looking around, and then one of the eggs, like, jizzes on him and burns his face real bad. And he's like, all right, have fun, check it out, see if you can do anything to fix the ship. And then it turns out, it's just like a burn, just like a chemical burn, and Phlox gives him an anal Jeezic cream.
Woofed.
But and then later on, everyone's like, all right, well, we're ready to go. And Archer's like, well, hold on. Have you saved the babies yet? And they're like, what? Like, yeah, no, have you fixed all the baby shit? Have you installed the crib and everything? And,
it's going to be super easy, barely an inconvenience.
Yeah. And Trip's like, Captain, I ain't taking care of no bug babies.
These motherfuckers killed my sister.
Yeah, and Archer's like, well, he's like, well, you fucking do it. You get your shit together. You're gonna go down to that planet, do what it takes to get the ship working, because when we finally meet the Zindies, we're gonna have to show them like our lists of good deeds, and they'll check their list and they'll check it twice and decide if we've been naughty or nice, and we want to be on the good list.
I don't know. Archer's been naughty this far. I don't think he can get on the nice list.
It's pretty amazing. Obviously we know what we know, but it's pretty great that it's like the first time all season where he hasn't been like, but what if we choose genocide?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, they were very they should have been suspecting immediately when he was not, when he brought up ethics.
Yeah.
Like, something's not right here.
Should we be torturing
So anyway,
them?
Everybody else on the ship pretty much is like, man, this is really fucking weird. Like, we're in a vulnerable position. The Xindi could show up at any time, and in fact, they do, and we have to blow up their ship. Archer's like kind of putting us all in danger by going through with this. And then Archer is like, okay, we got to take all the plasma out of the Enterprise and put it into this ship to get the reactor going. And to Paul and Trip are like, are you fucking nuts? We need that shit. He's like, just fucking do it. So T'Pol questions him, and then he relieves her of duty. Duty. And then Trip's like, what the fuck? And he almost relieves Trip of duty, but then he relieves Reed of duty just because fuck Reed. And he makes Hayes the new chief of security. And Hayes is such a fucking brown noser that he's like, yes, sir. And he gets his whole crew of brown nosers running security on the ship. And it's
what I wanted the whole time. Reed's job. Reed was right all along.
Yes. So they're basically running the ship like a police state. Archer is obsessed with the bugs and he won't leave. The crew, our heroes, get together and stage a little mutiny on board the Enterprise. They take out Hayes and the Makos like the bitches they are. Like
easily,
like very easily.
There was literally a look over there, and then they neck pinched the guy.
Yeah, seriously, like extremely easy to disarm and neutralize the Makos.
And pants.
Yes.
Pants?
And then
down.
Trip and Ensign Jones beam down to the surface.
Was there really an Ensign Jones, or are you making that up?
Wasn't there a second guy?
There was a random dude.
Just a random dude that went on the mission.
Did he survive?
He did.
We'd know if there was another death because they'd make sure to like draw attention to it.
Well, then one of our alarms would have gone off also.
Trip would have looked right in the camera, gone, "See that, Caitlin? Told you more people die."
And then like Archer has gone like full crazy mode, and he's like there. He's got the baby bugs crawling on him like they're his mom, like he's their mommy, and
they're so cute.
They are cute. And then Trip's like, fuck this, and he just shoots Archer, which is great.
Like we've all wanted to do.
And then they leave.
Not in this episode, in every other episode.
They torpedoed the fuck out of the bugs. We don't know. But as it turns out, Phlox explains that the jizz that got squirted on him by the egg turned out it was a some kind of pheromone or something that made Archer reverse imprint on the eggs. So he believed that he was their mother, or he had some subconscious urge to care for them.
Made Archer temporarily not a monster.
Yes. And it's okay now, and we can go back to killing Xindi like we wanted to all along.
It really feels like pretty ballsy of Phlox to like pretty much week after week be like, yeah, that thing I said was nothing. Turns out if I had just looked closer, I would have realized that wasn't the case.
Yeah, he's bad at his job.
Like, he's
real bad.
He fucks this shit up more than like...
He's Zoidberg.
Like Weatherman?
See, but no one thinks Zoidberg is competent. People think he is for some reason. Okay,
there should be a scene where someone's like, Phlox, why are your medical diagnoses and treatments always so poor? Oh, come on, it's just medicine. It's not science.
It's leeches every week.
It's just, yeah. I'm starting to think that Phlox really is just a folk medicine practitioner.
He's all these crystal therapies, areas.
Have you tried acupressure?
Okay.
Actually, that's technically what he's prescribed for Trip with the T'Pol shit, so yeah. God damn it.
What's up, Chris?
Before we give this episode the drubbing it so rightfully deserves, I gotta point out one thing. The mutiny ultimately succeeded thanks to Mayweather.
Fuck Mayweather, man. He was in it for all the wrong reasons.
Because at the very end, when they're like having the big tense standoff with Major Payne, whatever his name is, I've already forgotten. Hayes, thank you. Mayweather takes him down like a chump. And it was funny.
We saw those biceps. He can do it.
But like everyone bursts onto the bridge. I remember even thinking like Mayweather's face was even kind of like, what? You guys had a mutiny and didn't invite me? What the fuck?
They never invite Mayweather to anything.
I really wish
he's always pranking him,
I really wish
he invited him to a party. He puts like cayenne in the punch bowl and
yeah, it's true. He's a bit of a loose cannon. You can't have that with a mutiny.
He once covered the toilet bowl with saran wrap. Fucking awful.
But I just wish he took down Hayes and then just looked around and went, "Bet you're inviting me to the next fucking mutiny, jerks."
Oh, while we're on the Mayweather topic,
wasn't Hayes also not invited?
Well, he was when they were mutinying again.
He was
because he was on Archer's side.
But then he was like, "Why didn't you just tell me?"
Well, yeah, but then Reed was like,
"Come on, babe."
Reed was like, "You probably would have sided with the captain." He went, "You're right. I'm a fascist."
Yeah,
I would have loved it if Reed had just shot him anyway, because if
you have phasers that have stun, always be shooting first, is what I say.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring up this other great Mayweather thing. This is actually a pretty good Mayweather thing that I liked, because they have, I think it's the shuttle, the insectoid shuttle, something?
Yeah.
And Trip is whining, as he is wont to do, being like, "Oh, the chairs are so uncomfortable." And Mayweather says, for an insectoid, maybe they're comfortable. And I'm like, good, Mayweather, you're reminding us that, different strokes for different folks.
Mm-hmm.
They have a different butt than you have, Trip. Mind you, you got a nice butt, but... Moving on.
Technically, they don't have a butt, they have a thorax.
And that's the perfect chair for your thorax.
Yeah.
Man, it's a shame they didn't have this shuttle last week, because it probably would have been easier to convince Degra that they were in a stolen Xindi insectoid ship.
Oh, that's a good point. Well, they couldn't have flipped these episodes.
Nope.
This episode sucked.
All right, tell me why you didn't like this episode, because I have a very specific reasons why I think it needs to burn in hell.
Well, first off, again, I know I've brought this up multiple times, especially this season, but here it is again. The bad thing is the Star Trek thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Archer's like, hey, I have ethics. Look, I'm not committing I want to save innocents.
And
everyone's
Archer,
like, no, kill them.
Archer being like, if it was a room full of baby primates, would you still be so gung-ho to kill them? But that's not Archer, that's crazy Archer. Fuck this season.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it spends most of the episode, and I'm on Archer's side, which is a rarity for me. Thinking like, yes, this is a good thing. Yes, you should have reached out to that one insectoid ship you saw to be like, hey, your babies are in need of rescuing from you in particular because we're bad at it. Get some brownie points and also save some baby fucking creatures. Baby people.
Fucking wheels.
They're people. They're sentient beings.
Yep.
And they're just playing with it like, oh no, fuck, leave them, and maybe someone else will rescue them, but they don't have any life support.
Yeah,
and then for you to twist it at the end, being like, no, you shouldn't have been on Archer's side. You were supposed to be on the mutineers' side because Archer was crazy. Everyone else was right to want to kill. We're not committing enough war crimes.
He did eventually go too far in the other direction.
Not really. Not that far.
Well, when he was starting to, risk their own ability to get home, that's when you're like, whoa, John, scale it back. You gotta compromise here, buddy. You gotta find a happy medium.
Giving the antimatter over to the Xindi ship might have been...
That's when you go yeah, John.
It was only a third of their antimatter. They had lots more antimatter.
Yeah, but they're not exactly in a place to get more easily, necessarily.
Is their goal to make it home again? Their goal is to stop this war.
Their goal is to kill all Xindi, starting with these babies.
Yes, these innocent babies that imprint on Archer and are very cute when they scuttle around on him.
They were. Way to go making bugs adorable. That's not easy.
No.
It's like the fucking little cartoon cockroach in WALL-E. It's like, how did you make a cockroach cute?
So when Trip was first trying to get the thing running, and it overloaded and blew up a couple of the eggs, and there was the dead one, and then it cuts to the scene in sickbay of Phlox examining the corpse. I half expected him to take a bite out of it.
If John hadn't been in the room, he might have.
He did when they left.
Yeah, totally. Burial rights my ass, Captain. Phlox hungry.
Yeah, because the fact that everybody looks at Archer like he's a fucking nutcase when he asks about to find out about the funerary rites or whatever, that's just a thing, even in war.
Yeah, you're treating these guys like people.
Yeah, making sure that your dead enemies are, the
treated with respect.
The remains are respected is an actual thing.
It's like I almost wanted to give this episode credit for making it the insectoids and not one of the more human-looking races of the Xindi Council, because it makes you remember, yes, these guys are people, even though we don't see ourselves in them like we see in the humanoid or the primate ones or the arboreals or even the reptiles that look at least vaguely human-shaped because there's people under there.
Yeah,
but to make the insectoids, to make it the insectoids, it's like, that's a good touch, but they're also doing it because they're still keeping you separated. They're keeping this barrier between being able to treat them like people.
Well, and again, aside from Mayweather's comment about, maybe they have different chairs because they're not human, every nice thing said about them is crazy John. So it undercuts that horribly.
Yeah, it's
and even
terrible.
Just the fact that, they have this ability to kind of brainwash people, it turns out that's sort of implying that even before they're born, there's something kind of horrifying about them that they can't control. You know, like, they have this ability. And it's even, I think, kind of implied that maybe the original crew died because of that.
What?
Because it mentions that, like, they shut down, like, their own life support to feed life support into the egg sacs.
Oh.
And at first you're like, yeah, because they're protecting their children. That's a relatable thing.
You think the eggs sprayed their parents with their goo?
I mean, they don't say that outright, but they leave that possibility there.
I didn't think of that.
Which means possibly the Xindi insectoid wouldn't even have done that naturally. They only did it because of goo. Again, the show doesn't say that exactly, but it's out there as a possibility.
That is definitely a possibility.
So that makes it, to me, even fucking worse. Because that whole thing with Degra, the monkey man, was like, well, he's still doing a terrible thing, but, like, we kind of sympathize with the protect the children. And again, this was like, wow, these people died to protect their children, but then you're left with this inkling of doubt of, did they willingly die to protect their children? It's fucking awful.
Oh, man, I didn't think of that. Yeah, that's a good point.
Really, yeah, I never thought of that at all.
Hate this show.
This is
Hate
terrible.
season.
The more Chris hates this show, the sadder I get, because I just remember he was so excited, and I was like, maybe I will like it. I didn't think I would like Voyager, but I loved Voyager, so perhaps I will also love Enterprise. And now not only
Neelix,
do I
especially.
not love Enterprise, Chris doesn't even love Enterprise anymore.
Hey, on the plus, I went in thinking I didn't like Voyager. I like it way more than I remembered. So, you know, that's the trade-off. Voyager got a lot better. Enterprise got so much worse.
Well, it was always bad, to be fair.
I think for this episode, what I would have loved, because it would have felt like Star Trek, because Star Trek is supposed to be about, you know, exploration and not committing genocide, maybe, kinda. I would have loved to see this flipped.
Unless it was evolutionarily the next step.
Yeah, that's why Enterprise keeps getting so many things wrong. This is the other episode that I think they got, like, the ethics just 1000% wrong, because if instead they flipped it, there was, like, something that everyone breathed when they stupidly just take their helmets off on an alien ship like morons, and that maybe that made them want to kill. But Archer, having gotten sprayed in the face, put his helmet back down or something, or maybe the goo nullified whatever was doing the thing. Archer stayed Archer instead and saw that you shouldn't kill, which should be the trait that our Starfleet captains should have anyway. Would have been a much more interesting episode to me if everyone else was affected, and it was the trick from last episode. It was the Shyamalan twist that you think Archer's affected, but really it's everyone else.
That would have been fun. Or
we got Shyamalan'd again.
So here was my rewrite of this episode. Instead of cut the jizz eggs altogether and just make it so that Archer is legitimately trying to help get them
rescued,
taken care of.
Yeah.
And the rest of the crew is as well. And then he's like, oh, Trip's like, well, we can get their reactor started, but we got to give away a tenth of our antimatter. And Archer's like, well, is that going to work? And T'Pol's like, let me crunch the numbers. Yeah, 10%, no problem. That's fine. And here's where I twisted up on you, bitches.
Shyamalan'd.
Fucking Hayes gets wind of this and is like, no fucking way are we giving away our antimatter to protect these bugs.
Wait, you want the Makos to have agency? You're shocking.
The only good bug's a dead bug. I'm doing my part.
Yes.
So what's funny?
Do you want to know more?
And
then the Makos do a mutiny.
That is more interesting.
And then we have to do a counter mutiny on the Makos, and like then we have like, oh wow, maybe Reed was justified in shitting on Hayes this whole time because he was actually just a military man and he's a piece of shit, and he'll stop at nothing to make sure the mission goes off.
Right before you said that, Jake, I was having the same thought, because like they seem to want to, in this episode, part of the point does seem to be to justify Reed's hatred that otherwise has no basis in anything. So it's like, you could have had John be ethical, and it's the Makos that are like, you know, because you maybe wonder, like, how come the Makos don't exist by the 23rd century? It's like, oh, because they're fucking psychopathic soldiers, not Starfleet officers. And, you know, again, there's hints of that, like, they're happy to go, like, they go fash really fast. Like, the minute they see an opening to be, like, full-on secret police, they're like, fuck yeah!
But here's the thing. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, even though, sure, they're bootlickers and they love the chain of command,
It's a good
it
episode.
doesn't make sense to me that they would be going along with Archer on this, because I think that they report to Archer on this mission just because he's the captain of the ship, but like normally they're not in the chain of command of Starfleet. I don't think they're just their own thing. And when their mission is stop the Xindi, which is the whole reason they're here, and Archer's like, hey, let's do a detour to save the Xindi, I feel like they would be the first ones to be like, well...
Yeah, they got this whole thing backwards. I think the argument that the writers are trying to make, you know, not knowing anything about, like, military lifestyles or training, is they think military people are just following orders, and that's why they do the things they do. Not that they can tell right from wrong ever. They only ever do what they're told, which is fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, and it continues to make them not characters.
Yeah, again, if this was a better show and had been written better from the beginning, Hayes and the Makos always would have been a presence. They maybe always would have been the more militant ones that, like, Archer's just barely keeping in check. Therefore,
we would have had that Hayes episode way earlier with Reed. Yeah,
Reed's trepidation about them would be justified and not just childish jealousy. And then this could have been coming to a head. Where, like, here's where Starfleet ideals and Mako bullshit clash. You know, this is a turning point in pre-Federation history where, like, you know, we're still World War III is in living memory for some people. This is a flashpoint for where we could either become the Federation or the fucking Mirror Universe. And this is part of the reason the Federation won out, because they did this right. But that, again, involves rewriting the entire season.
Right.
Doing it as, we're not out for revenge, we're out to explain that we're all being manipulated and we need to work together to fix this. But again, this was just this season we're going to say everything America did after 9/11 was justified.
Well, not just that. Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that's the saddest part, is that it could have been, this whole season had a setup that could have been about Star Trek stuff, but instead we did Agent Jack Bauer shit.
Yeah, without even having any commentary on it. It's literally just showing us stuff from, like, from the ultimate, like, patriotic lens.
Well, that
What's
was
interesting is that I just looked it up, and this episode aired a couple months or a month or two before the Abu Ghraib torture
reveal, for lack of a better term.
The video.
Yeah. So it's like, I feel like at this point, there was still that high of America, fuck yeah.
Yeah, we did it and all of that.
And I feel like it's about to crash and burn. Because like in rapid succession, you get like Abu Ghraib, you get the torture memos, you get Gitmo and the waterboarding, and it's just like, in hindsight for us, it's very easy to look back and be like, ooh, romanticizing that post 9/11 fucking bullshit is a bad look. But I bet at the time it was like, yeah, this is the thing we should do.
I mean, the problem is a lot of people were, but again, if anyone should have been among the few voices being like, guys, this is dumb, it should have been Star Trek.
Oh, yes.
Jesus, I remember when I fucking snapped out of it, and it was literally a week later when George was on the news giving a fucking speech, and he had his usual fucking idiot boy deer in headlights look, and I was like, oh god, this fucking moron's in charge, we are screwed. And I was a child and I figured that shit out.
Yeah.
Also, it was really distracting to me that, and again, had this been a better season, a better episode, it could have been subtle little clever commentary, but again, it's not good. The fact that apparently the Makos are trained at West Point? Why is West Point still a thing? America doesn't exist anymore. I mean, it does, but not like Like, West Point is specifically the training center for the United States Army.
Well, isn't West Point really, isn't that like a school?
It's
for like officers though.
Yeah,
Not
but
like...
specifically officers of the U.S. military.
Yeah, these are like. Is Mako Starfleet or is Mako kind of its own thing?
It seems like it's Earth stuff, and like that. So you could say like, well, yeah, but I mean, Starfleet's based out of San Francisco, and it's like, yeah, but San Francisco was never like the center of American politics. It's a major American city, yes, but you could justify it by being like, look, in the aftermath of World War III, it was probably the nearest major city, so they just set up shop because it was nearby. And like, yeah, obviously there's an American centrism to Star Trek that is hard to avoid, but like specifically name dropping West Point just felt weird. It's like West Point wouldn't still be a thing.
I mean, it might if it's just a military
if the British
college.
The British Navy still is.
They should have gone to a British school then.
I mean, there might be other, like maybe there's other military academies in other countries, but maybe because...
But audience members haven't heard of them, so...
Yeah.
That's right, but also Hayes is very obviously North American, so...
Yeah, I just, you could have just said, the Mako Academy or something. Like, making it explicitly West Point
Academy
was so weird. It's like, one of my favorite moments in Mass Effect 3 is it opens with this attack on the headquarters of the Earth Space Navy. And you're going through this big, tense, crazy moment, and it's very, like, big action set piece, very dramatic, and you escape. And then if you read the in-game encyclopedia entry for this academy afterwards, you find out that you were in Canada, because they're a Canadian developer.
Yep.
And so they decided, fuck it. If the Americans get to make their sci-fi show and base it out of Frisco, our Navy's in Canada.
Go Team Canada.
Mm-hmm. But yeah.
T'Pol was interesting this episode because she's like the first one to advocate mutinying, which seems very unlike her. I wonder if she's still a hallucination.
Well, you know what it is? Again, this is... Remember, we always talk about early days Spock and how much he fucking loved violence. She was pissed off they weren't going to kill those bugs.
Oh, man.
It is logical to let them bugs die.
Mm-hmm.
I did like seeing her in the Starfleet uniform again, but...
Albeit briefly.
Briefly and as a disguise. She did get to wear a hat.
She did.
At last.
I've been asking for hats all show long.
Yep.
Yeah, I just remember when we did our blog post activity, which you should be checking out on the Tumblr, obviously, that I watched this episode for the Mutiny episode, and I was just fucking enraged by the end.
Yeah, rightly so. Like, John even tells the goddamn story about his, like, grandfather or whatever and the eugenics wars and them having this moment of, like, let's empty the school before we kill each other.
Right.
And again, that should be a beautiful moment. But again, it's a story Crazy John is telling.
I mean, the story is still probably true.
True, yes.
Is my guess.
Like, the story probably happened, but like the fact that he's bringing it up, he's only bringing it up because he's gone crazy. Not because he actually is trying to illustrate a point.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck point Enterprise makes with these kinds of episodes, because they seem to be just shooting themselves in the face.
The only point of this season is post 9/11 America is good. And you should never question the status quo, which has got to be the least Star Trek thing fucking ever. It's ironic that this is the season they finally tacked Star Trek onto the title.
Ugh, yeah. My last unrelated note, because I do like seeing the insectoid ship, because that thing is cool looking, is that I like the detail that they don't have a bridge.
Yeah.
Because they say, go to the bridge, and they're like, we can't find one. They probably don't have one.
Yeah, they're like ants. They just kind of commune.
Yeah, which I like. I thought that was another good detail.
Yeah.
Comes out of an otherwise abysmal episode.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Daniel Day Kim was back. Briefly and to get underused.
Yep. And to get punched. Or shot. I can't remember which.
Oh, as a Mako?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't remember seeing him, but yeah. I'll do it.
I can't think of a segue. Keiko!
Terrible.
You know what another terrible thing about Star Trek is?
Boo.
Keiko O'Brien.
She has her moments.
I don't know. I didn't come up with a very long best list. My worst list is way longer.
Look, she has like 25 appearances. It ain't easy.
All right, I'll put your money where your mouth is, Chris. So we're talking Keiko this week. Does anyone have good things to say about Keiko?
Can anyone stand to have their Keiko and eat it too?
I got a couple. This one's kind of cheesy and dumb in some ways, but fuck it. When she makes O'Brien hang out with Bashir again at the end of a session.
Oh, yeah, that is a good one.
And while she might have been wrong about Miles' coffee habits in Armageddon game, her wrongness still saved Miles and Bashir.
Yep,
yeah,
it did.
That's true.
She fought real hard for it.
Yep. And telling Kai Wynn to go fuck herself in the hands of the prophets.
Yeah. That is a genuinely good moment.
Yep. Fuck Kai Wynn.
I'm ready.
Yay.
Unless you want to go, Jake.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, so good things. Same as you, Chris, the time she saved O'Brien's life by insisting he never took coffee in the afternoon. It was awesome that she was so comfortable with Miles taking care of Kira while she carried their child. And the time she started a school on Deep Space Nine.
Yep. Yeah, I also had...
Well, you guys are going way too fast for me to write these down.
Well, they're all the overlaps.
You're not discussing them at all.
Well, because they're not very interesting. Keiko's not very interesting of a character, unfortunately. Most of her attributes are in relation to Miles. She's an accessory for Miles, and I feel like the moments hat.
Like T'Pol's hat.
Like the moments that I ended up thinking of were the moments, with one exception, where, or actually no, mostly not. Yeah, like trying to think of moments where she actually did something herself that was not just something, something for Miles or something with Miles or something about Miles. So I also had doing the school on DS9, as unpopular as it was.
As unprepared as she was.
I also did have saving Miles with the afternoon coffee lie.
Well, I don't think it was a lie. I think it was just a mistake.
Nope. She's a liar, and she knows it. She was bullshitting. She had to convince somebody, right? She had to convince Cisco or somebody.
Well, Cisco's always ready to just see where this goes. So.
So she's like, yeah, he never drinks coffee in the afternoon. Yeah, that's why. He's probably being probably faked his own death or something. I don't know. So anyway, and then my last one is, when she moved to Deep Space Nine, she had to kind of give up her actual career as a botanist, and that's what led to the school. But eventually she's like, you know what, fuck this shit. I'm just going to go be a botanist on Bajor. So she went off and did her own thing, and I applaud that.
Cool. Botanist on Bajor. I don't remember what episode that's in. I will find it on the internet.
I don't remember either.
All right, you guys have no TNG mentions yet, so I'm going to throw some TNG mentions at you. She takes the ship back from Ferengi as a child in Rascals. And that's extra hard because she's so much shorter as a child.
You're saying something nice about Rascals. You really did have trouble finding stuff.
I did. Luckily, the list is filled out a little bit more since you guys added some stuff to it. Another thing from TNG I'll give her credit for was staying brave throughout all of Power Play while possessed fucking Miles was going to destroy her and the baby. So I give her some credit for that. She was prepared to be sacrificed instead of let this guy keep inhabiting her husband. Good for her. That's a good, strong moment from Keiko. And the last one, I'll give another Keiko standing strong and not giving in to pressures. During Tribunal, when the Cardassians were like, it's always good when the wives come and cry, and she's like, I am not gonna fucking cry. And she didn't. Good for her.
Yeah, Keiko.
Get him. Get him, Keiko. Oh, and here's another good one. Here's a good honorable mention, just to make sure I get it in here. So it'll be on the Tumblr too, but I'm going to say it now, and that's that she has this great line to Miles during Cardassians when they're taking care of Rugal, the orphan boy. And she says, when Miles is saying something racist, as he always does, her line was, that was a very ugly thing you just said.
Oh, yeah. That's a good line.
Yeah, and I give her lots of credit for that.
Disappointed.
Exactly. Yeah, but I think I made sure to add like Keiko to our list of people to discuss just because I feel like the shows don't really give her a good shake. Like 90% of the time, like I was going through like the memory alpha notes on stuff Keiko does, and so many of them are Keiko left for this whole like several episode span to go be on Bajor. Keiko left for this whole span to like, you know, escape the station. And it's like, wow, you guys just kept finding reasons to not have her around.
Yeah.
We've realized, in fact, wife bad. So.
Yeah.
In fact, wife bad. There's many ways wife is bad. Let's talk about some bad wife moments.
Well, I never once saw her chew Miles' food for him.
Nog? This one, a little tongue-in-cheek, but it's still funny to me, I don't know. I couldn't actually find the fucking episode title, but somehow completely missing that she was not helping, like, the weird tension in the room when she was trying to get O'Brien to spend more time with Kira.
Oh, that's looking for Parmok in all the wrong places.
Thank you. God,
that's right. When Miles is like, I don't think I should bang her. And Keiko's like, you should hang out with her more. And she's like, oh no. Yep,
like, come on. Read your husband. Speaking of read your husband, I'm giving her one I gave Miles. Not getting to know your husband before marrying him in The Wounded. How do you two know so little about each other?
God, I found the meal the meal she made for him was plankton loaf, which no one would want.
And I'm going to steal one from you guys. Dumping Cave Molly in the past or future or whatever it was.
Cave.
In Time's Orphan.
Yeah, fuck that. Oh, yeah. What a bitch.
I mean, again, Miles was there too, but she didn't exactly try to stop him. She was very complicit.
Both of them were equally at fault for this, and Odo too.
Yes.
Oh,
how about you, Caitlin?
Well, you might see some overlap between my tops and bottoms.
Yes, that's the best kind.
The number one was that time she was totally wrong about Miles' coffee drinking habits.
Yes!
Why didn't she
also
get
had
to
it
know
on both
him?
Lists.
Why didn't she get to know him before they got married? Number two, that time she was totally pushing Miles into Kira's arms.
Yeah.
What the fuck, Keiko? Wife bad. And third of all, that time she all but laughed in the face of Vedic Win and escalated tensions on the station between Bajorans and non-Bajorans. Leading, as you may recall, to terrorism.
That's very funny. Thank you, Caitlin.
And when she cheated on O'Brien with Worf, obviously. But,
obviously. That's one of her best moments.
But that one's a little less serious.
So for my bad list, I had, of course, giving up on old Molly.
Oh, yeah.
Which I literally just copy and pasted that from my Miles list because they both suck for that.
Giving up on old Molly. I don't know why.
It's like a prospector who stopped clubbing. So I gave up on old Molly.
When she was living on Bajor, and she would occasionally come back and visit the station, and she got all bent out of shape that Miles had, like, done some engineering work in the quarters.
Yeah, that was weird.
I was like, why the fuck? Just let the man have his space, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, but wait, wasn't that the episode, though, where, like, Luoxana was, like, spewing sex hormones, and was she possibly, like, affecting her mood with that? Am I wrong?
I don't remember.
Do you remember what episode it was?
I feel like the episode where she comes home from Bajor, she's like on the shuttle with Luoxana, who's given Molly a ton of candy, made her feel sick. I'm pretty sure that's that episode.
Yeah, maybe.
There might be multiples.
I just remember there was a scene where, like, she just didn't want, like, Miles had like dirtied the bedroom with his work, and she didn't like it. Anyway, I think the top spot for me, though, has to go for the time she tried to jilt Miles on their wedding day.
No, she made Data jilt him for her.
She made Data jilt Miles on their wedding day.
We talked about this not long ago, and I already forgot about it.
Because it's on my O'Brien list, too.
But O'Brien didn't really do anything wrong there, other than marrying Keiko. But
well, making Data be your go-between was the bad thing for him.
But she started it. She was like, "Go tell Miles the wedding's off." Oh well.
Weirdo.
Listen,
Sorry,
Keiko's motto is if you can't handle me at my being a fucking dumb bitch on our wedding day, then you don't deserve me at my slaving over the stove all day to make you this goddamn plankton loaf. No, wait, those are the same Keiko. I don't know. Never mind. Who knows? O'Brien was probably just hyped that a fucking 4 like him was pulling a 7 like Keiko, is all I'm saying.
4 and 7. Perfect. But I also have some shitty Keiko moments because the show just does her so dirty sometimes terms of making her the shrew wife and then the shrew school marm and then never being around. It's like, wow, you guys really hated this character. And I think the worst of the worst that I'm going to give her, this is my top one thing I hate about Keiko. She tries to get Miles to get rid of Chester in Prodigal Daughter. And fuck you.
Oh, yeah.
Aww.
Chester was Bilby's cat and Miles promised to take care of him. And Chester's
Miles,
a good cat.
Best friend. Yes, Julian, I know you're in the room.
Let's
And
see,
Otis
more.
pops up and is like, "Did you know I was in the room?" And he's like, "Ah!"
More bad Keiko stuff because she also does some other fucking stupid shit. Oh god, she accuses Miles of having an affair in the hands of the prophets, which was weird because I don't think he's physically capable of doing so.
I don't know.
And also all the the public fighting she does with him, like Jesus, bitch, you two should not have married. But the other thing, because I love when they're on both lists, is I'm gonna give her starting a fucking school when she has no idea what the fuck she's doing.
It's the thought that counts, Ames.
She is a botanist. This is not something she is skilled at. The show
Sulu
had
was
no
a
idea what to.
botanist. Sulu was a botanist, and then it turns out he was a really good pilot.
Yeah, but
botanists can do two things.
He didn't try to teach anybody anything.
No, it was very clear the show had no idea what to do with her, so they just decided to change her entirely.
Yeah.
For the sake of their frontier town thing. And
yeah.
It feels like a detraction from a character that was at least had a thing that she liked doing and they took it away.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
Yep, lazy writing. Speaking of lazy writing, more Enterprise next week. Oh, God. What fucking horrors will they try to justify in?
Guys, to be fair, the writers of Enterprise aren't lazy. I mean, consider the gymnastics they have to do to make any of this shit make sense in their own fucking heads.
Oh,
they're all hallucinating multiple T'Pols, and they're all naked.
Well,
and Phlox, too.
Right. That sounds less good.
Time to do a handspring into a Zadi Prime, followed by a triple Salcow into damage. And next week we have our first no good things in Kai Winadami.
Woo! Love to hate that bitch.
Wonderfully awful person. So it's such a beautifully written piece of shit.
The way that she tells Kira, "My child, don't ever question me again," or whatever. Like, god damn. She is the most evil bitch that ever did evil bitch.
She is so fun to hate. Unlike John, who I just hate.
Yeah, the show wants you to hate her. The show thinks you should like John. Why?
Yeah.
With all his torture and...
So fucking weird. But that's next week.
Woo!
To keep informed, follow us on the Facebook and the Tumblr, and your favorite podcasting Hoodly What's It. Until then... Oh, and don't forget to check out the Tumblr for our lists and all of our previous articles and things. They're fun.
Our blogtivities that Ames works very, very hard on to make us idiots look and sound good in the blogs.
Until then.
I do make fun of Chris a lot.
What else is new?
That's fair. This has been Chris.
This has been Ames.
This has been Caitlin.
And this was Jake.
Or were you a hallucination, perhaps?
Ooh.
Let's bring Jake to his bed. Oh, he's already in it!
Oh my god, I shit in it too.
Oh no!
You would.
Oh no.